Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if, Naruto x Mikoto x female Sasuke, part 2, hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. I do not own this fanfic, and also make sure to check out the author of this fanfic, G3rman, and support him for writing this awesome fanfic, link is in the description. So let's get into the video. Mikoto's house. Mikoto was in the kitchen preparing a meal for the two children in her care before they went off to school. All had woken up early so they could have a family talk of sorts, and they were waiting patiently in the family room for her to come out. The Uchiha mother had placed her bloody apron away, and adopted a more presentable outfit under her cooking apron, a tight red sweater with a pair of blue pants, and her lace sandals. Not worthy of combat, but good enough for a meeting with the elders. That was something she had the pleasure of experiencing today, as well, she thought with a scowl. A messenger had told her of a scheduled meeting between the surviving Uchiha matriarch and the village council. The title they gave her surely was a sad attempt of kissing up to her to give them an edge in negotiations. It would do them little good though because all they would be discussing is the Uchiha's future in Konoha. What little to discuss there was. I wouldn't let them take advantage of my Sasuke, even if it means sacrificing my own future. Mikoto thought with a grimace. They would surely go for the younger Uchiha, while she was still able to be influenced. Over her mother's own terms as she had to guess, as well. It was also the case of Itachi, the last remaining male Uchiha, and her son. Where did he leave Konoha for? Why hadn't the village sent hunter ninjas after him already? There was something odd about how nonchalant they were about him leaving, even if it was their orders that led him to do so. That was something she would bring up at the meeting, as well. There was no one in Konoha she could trust, not even the Hokage. No matter how noble and honest he was with her, Mikoto knew that a part of him totally agreed with the outcome that came from the destruction of her clan. Even a part of her knew that Konoha would be in dire straits if the Uchiha had been allowed to continue with their plans. The Uchiha were her clan though, there was no doubt which side she was loyal to, and the council had to know that. That was why they were going to try and control her now. She could hear their laughter from the other room, those two were the only ones she could trust. That meant she would do whatever it took to protect them. Ka-san, hurry up. Sasuke's voice rang through the thin sliding doors, and Mikoto looked back at her cooking to see it was done. Fish with some rice and soup, a quick and light breakfast. It's coming to you too with expertise rivaling a waitress. Mikoto entered the family room with all three of their meals to sit down on this small table. Naruto and Sasuke sat next to each other, as usual, and Mikoto sat across from them, eating their food in relative silence. They were still getting used to one another, and how they acted. Naruto hadn't been in such a formal setting before, and didn't know how to act, so he reverted to being shy. Sasuke and Mikoto were nervous they would scare him further so they didn't say anything. Naruto-kun Mikoto broke the silence, and Naruto brought his attention from his food to her. You know I already stocked your closet with clothing that Itachi had when he was your age. Did you like any of them? She asked to broach the subject of his new clothing, as Naruto now wore a black shirt and beige shorts. I like Miko-chan. Are you sure I can wear them though? They are pretty new, and stuff. Naruto never got new clothing or new anything, everything was hand-me-downs from the Hokage. Of course you can wear them, Naruto. Mikoto chided with a laugh. They are your clothes now. Naruto blushed and nodded, still not used to such generosity. You can get clothes like mine with the Uchiha fan after you pass the fireball test, Naruto. He looked at Sasuke, as she turned around to let him see the Uchiha fan proudly stamped on her blue, high-collar shirt. Fireball test. Naruto looked expectantly at Mikoto, and she brushed a strand of hair back uncomfortably, silently berating her daughter for broaching the subject so carelessly. What if he doesn't have a fire affinity? At his age Naruto wouldn't understand, and would get crushed if he couldn't do the technique. He isn't a natural-born Uchiha like Sasuke. All young Uchiha are given a test by their parents to see if they have earned the right to be called an Uchiha, and wear the fan on their clothing. The test is to see if you can use the Uchiha clan, Nkakik. Whether you pass or fail the first time, you won't be considered a true Uchiha unless you can do that. It's an old tradition passed down since a young Uchiha youth created the fireball. All Uchiha believe that if their child can't create it at the same age, they are destined to be a prodigy. Naruto seemed excited over the prospect of trying it, while Mikoto was still apprehensive. When can I try it then? Mikoto gave an awkward smile, and hesitated for a moment. Well, we will have to do it sometime tomorrow, Naru-chan. Ka-san has a meeting today right after breakfast, and I can't wait, so I won't have time to teach you the technique. I promise we will do it though. Naruto deflated a bit, but cheered up when she promised they would get around to it. Don't worry Ka-san, I can teach him after school today to give him a head start. That way he can shoot a fireball to welcome you back from your meeting. Sasuke encouraged him, and he smiled at her, thankful she would do that for him. Thanks Sasuke. Naruto blushed in embarrassment when she gave him a sweet smile. Don't worry Naruto, that's what brother and sister are supposed to do. Mikoto instantly smiled when she heard that the two were getting along just fine. Okay you two, it's time for you to get going, or else you'll be late for class. Mikoto ushered them out with lunch and a wave goodbye, while she quickly set to doing the dishes, so she wouldn't leave any strings at home. It didn't take long before her household chores were done. Really, she didn't mind being late to the meeting just to spite the elders. It was the least discomfort they could have in return for what happened to her. Mikoto didn't know how long she would hold the grudge against them, perhaps forever. If so, they had better be prepared to endure such hardships while she was still alive. Hokage House, office. Hiruzen sat at his desk with Homura and Koharu flanking his sides, as usual, albeit they were quite impatient at the time. Mikoto Uchiha, the one they had called a meeting for, was over 15 minutes late. For a civilian that was a little disappointing. For a ninja to be late, it was obvious they were being mocked. The Hokage knew of course Mikoto was quite aware of the meeting and the time, but she could afford to be late. With what we will discuss, can you blame her? I would be hesitant in her position as well. Where is that damn woman? Homura muttering in anger. She had the nerve to stand them up at such a critical time. She will be here soon. In fact, I think we will be seeing her very shortly. Hiruzen calmed his teammate, and soon enough, Mikoto joined them in the office. She said nothing, as she walked to her seat with a straight face, and sat down, looking directly at the Hokage. They took this, as the meeting started, and began to lay into her immediately. Welcome Mikoto-san, although I feel you might have gotten the times mixed up in your head. Koharu carefully scolded the grown woman, as she indicated the clock. We're over 15 minutes late in starting this session because of your tardiness. No mistake was made, elder. I was not informed of the gravity of this meeting, therefore I did not take the time given, as compulsory. Hiruzen thought he detected some haughtiness to Mikoto's tone, and knew she was getting angry. That aside, Hiruzen stepped in to keep the peace. This meeting has been called to assess the situation of the Uchiha currently, and for future efforts in continuing the bloodline in Konoha. He did not wish to use the kra as a proper term, nor did breeding seem like an appropriate word either. Neither translation further made to unsettle Mikoto in her seat. Yes, would you please give us a complete rundown of the Uchiha clan, and its current members Uchiha Dono? Suddenly they gave her the respect a matriarch deserved, the spiteful bastards. We have suffered grievous losses after the massacre, one might I add you forced on us elders. This wouldn't be necessary if the outcome had been different. Mikoto retorted, as if they didn't know where the Uchihas stood. They probably had each pair of eyes recovered counted with a certain amount of glee. Touché, Hiruzen thought, as Mikoto beat back at them. The woman took out some notes she wrote down from her study in the compound, after receiving some information from the medical nins in charge of the Uchiha dead. A casualty list just recently arrived from the morgue, numbers and names were detailed. 62 Uchiha are dead, this includes children and elderly. Mikoto glanced at the elders to see if they reacted, but received nothing but a quirk of lips. She sighed, and continued. 40 pairs of Sharingan eyes have been confirmed recovered, while the rest did not test positive for the activated, therefore rendering them useless. That was a point the elders were a bit disappointed in. If only all Uchiha had some form of the activated, they would have had a higher amount of genes to choose from. On a side note, Mikoto glanced up from her notes with an accusing glare at the three in front of her. I have no record of Uchiha Shisui's eyes being recovered, nor his body being located in the morgue. Would you elders or the Hokage mind telling me where he is? There was an edge to her voice, suspicion of foul play. I was not alerted that Shisui was not among the dead, then again he was killed a few weeks previously, correct Mikoto-san? The Hokage asked, genuinely confused at the situation. The two elders remained silent, but also thought the disappearance of the body was odd. Yes, that is correct. However, to the best of my knowledge he was kept in the morgue until this point in time, because my host Mikoto paused in the middle of the word. Fugaku decided to keep him from being buried until we could have a proper funeral. We were busy at the time. Mikoto ended quietly, indirectly admitting to their time plotting the coup. We will have this matter investigated immediately Uchiha Dono, you have our word. The disappearance of such a prestigious shinobi like Shisui-san is a disgrace, and must be rectified immediately. Homura declared, and received a nod of agreement from Koharu and Sarutobi. Mikoto knew it was just being polite, but, as long as they found the body she didn't care. Shisui had very powerful, very dangerous eyes. If someone stole his body to use for themselves that will cause trouble later on. Moving on, what, in your opinion, is the Uchiha's current status Uchiha Dono? Koharu progressed the meeting after a moment of awkward silence when they were left to their own thoughts. There isn't much of a clan left. There's myself, the matriarch, along with my children. Our compound is in perfect shape though, and our clan archive remains untouched. We have the facilities for more clansmen, but for now we have no way of getting back our former strength. At this the elders' attitude turned from neutral to devious, and Mikoto and Hiruzen both knew where it was going. Ah, we have found a way to rectify the problem, Uchiha Dono. When a clan is in dire straits, the Clan Restoration Act is placed upon their family, until the size of the clan is well enough to sustain itself without such emergency measures. May we presume you know what it entails? Homura started with hidden excitement, and Mikoto resisted the urge to vomit, giving a shrug instead. Enlighten me of the elder procedure. He was hoping she would say something like that. While this usually only pertains to the males of the clan, in such an unfortunate case, as the Uchiha are in, we only have females left. That means we must be extremely careful with the breeding pairs we give you to make sure your clan has the best chance of continuing with the Sharingan and any other positive genes we can get from the father. Hiruzen listened, as his teammate explained the act to the woman, silently hoping Mikoto would not overreact, as he had warned her beforehand. While you may begin breeding Uchiha Dono immediately, your daughter will have to wait. However, not one to be unprepared, Kaharu now continued the explanation. We can still set up her future partners for when she turns the healthy childbearing age of 16, she will be fully prepared to continue the Uchiha line. Of course there will be time for you to rest between births, and we will take care of any help you may need in caring for them, while you are busy fulfilling the Kra. Mikoto found the thought disgusting, forcing them to have multiple partners, and not even getting to take care of their children afterward. The elders must have been out of their minds if they thought she would allow this. Unfortunately, she could not just be allowed to do nothing when the Uchiha, and more importantly the Sharingan, meant so much to Konoha's military strength. Whether she liked the idea or not, Mikoto would be forced into having someone's children much sooner than she would care to. But if there was a chance to spare Sasuke, at least until she found the right one, Mikoto would find a loophole. Before we continue, at least let me speak my mind on the subject, as this is my body, and my daughters that we are talking about. I will not allow myself, but more so my daughter, to be forced into a pairing where there is no relationship, only duty. I have been in a relationship like that for the past 12 years, and I did not like the experience. The elders had hoped she would remain quiet and docile, but of course she would speak her mind to them. Uchiha Dono, you must understand it's a difficult balance between your feelings on the matter, and the duty to the village, and your clan to continue. Mikoto's glare cut the elder off, and let her have the floor again. I will decide how far my loyalty to the village goes, and I damn well know my duty to my clan. My daughter and I will most likely have children in our futures, however, it will be with someone we wish to have children with, and not yours. Just as the elders were thinking of a smart retort, Danzo decided to make his presence known. Uchiha-san, you should know such a weak excuse will not allow you to escape the cross so easily. Mikoto twisted in her seat to see Danzo shuffle in, and look at her with a thinly opened eye, like a constant glare. Sympathy is not my strong point, so excuse me for not feeling too much about your past experience. Your past husband failed, as a Konoha shinobi, and, as a lover, but that doesn't. Mikoto had kicked over her chair, as she stood up in pure outrage over his accusation. Danzo. What is the meaning of this? You were not to come. Sarutobi did not like his old comrade's entrance already, and hoped to cut it short. I'm sorry Sarutobi, but I cannot allow this woman to jeopardize the future of a great bloodline, because she allows her feelings to get in the way of the village's best interests. Now Uchiha-san, if you want to leave this meeting without even stricter restraints on your clan and your daughter, I highly suggest you give us a name for you and your daughter's future husband or husbands if you do so choose. Mikoto flinched and realized he had backed her into a corner. It was true, Danzo and the elders could make the Uchiha have an even worse time in Konoha than they were now. Even worse, an accident could befall her, leaving her unable to care for Sasuke and Naruto and leave them for the Vulture Council. Danzo enjoyed seeing the woman deflate, as she realized just what power he held. He only came because he knew the elders would fail in persuading her. The woman was stubborn, and was thinking with her heart when she should think with her head. How can you expect me to have an answer to such a question so quickly? Mikoto was at a loss for words. What was she to say in response to that? It was a life-changing decision who you would marry, and have children with, definitely not one that could be made in a few moments. Danzo, your interruption has disrupted this meeting. I should adjourn it right now for your disrespect of this council, and the Uchiha, but it is true that Mikoto-san must make a decision. I needed to speak with her in private for a moment. Hiruzen looked at his two teammates, and inclined his neck toward the door. Elders, please excuse yourselves for a few minutes. Kaharu and Himura were flabbergasted, too shocked to say anything in response, as they slowly shuffled out. Danzo left a lingering glare before joining them in the hallway, and closing the door behind them. Hiruzen sighed, and waved a hand toward another chair that Mikoto hadn't knocked down, but she refused to calm herself. I know this is a troubling development, but I have to agree with Danzo. Making a premature decision can most definitely be life-changing for the both of you, but that doesn't mean you can't change your mind in the future. Your daughter still has many years before she is of age where this will be implemented. Hiruzen stood beside her, speaking encouragingly in her ear, as she shook with rage. And there are ways for you to avoid the Kra as well. Do you remember what I told you yesterday? Mikoto thought back, and couldn't believe he was having her consider the idea. It was disgusting. The younger man, Hokage-sama. How can you ask me to choose a boy where I am twice his age? How will he even take it knowing he is to breed with a total stranger? She said the word with disgust. I can't do that, besides I know no boy that would be young enough to keep me from having sex with him for more than a few years. Hiruzen sighed. He had already thought of a suggestion. No matter how outrageous she would think it was, he would give it a shot regardless. As he said before though, it was merely a delay tactic, or at least that would be all Mikoto would have to see it as. How about you choose Naruto as your daughters, and your own choice? Mikoto had been staring at the floor until that point, but was now openly gaping at the Hokage. Naruto. But he is only 7 years old. And I adopted him as an Uchiha. We are practically mother and son now, he wouldn't understand. I would feel like I'm betraying his trust by using him like that. Hiruzen nodded, he could see where she was coming from. I know Mikoto-san, but Naruto does not have to know of the arrangement between you two until he is older when you have to fulfill the craw. Telling him of his engagement to Sasuke however would be satisfactory, and keep them both from asking any further questions. Mikoto calmed a bit, but still looked unsure over the situation, feeling a pit of guilt growing in her stomach. Hiruzen moved closer to her, and put a comforting hand on her shoulder, indicating she looked at him. I'm very sorry that you have been thrust into the spotlight like this. If anything you should be mourning your clan right now, and my teammates, and I should be kissing your feet in apologies. However we both must look at the situation at what is best for you, and your children. Introducing a total stranger, as your partner to the children will affect them terribly at this young of age, not to mention you yourself would not be happy at all. Naruto and Sasuke surely get along, and would have plenty of time to warm up to the idea of marriage, giving you plenty of time to find the right partner, as they grow up. Who knows, you might even decide to choose Naruto, as well, no matter how outrageous that sounds now. He quickly added the outrageous part seeing her disgusted face. It wasn't that she didn't think Naruto to be an unattractive boy when he would grow up, being the son of the Yondaime surely gave her plenty to imagine in his older age. However, she had already begun to see him as a son, and felt that he saw her as an adult, and maybe later a mother. Their relationship couldn't go further than that in her eyes, as long as the two kept on the same thought process. I think you are right, Hokage-sama. I'm afraid they won't allow it though, especially not for the both of us. He is seen to them as a powerful tool to the village, not some select male breeding stock. Hiruzen pondered it for a moment before moving over to his desk, and opening up a drawer where he pulled out a scroll. Well then, he said with a smirk. We will just have to prove to them he is proper breeding material. Uchiha compound. Pierre, Naruto, and Sasuke were coming home after a long day of school. Nothing much new was learned that day, and the two new family members were excited for their next activity. Sasuke was leading him through the compound to the pier her father took her to take the initiation test herself. Though she would teach him the hand signs, and let him try it. Of course she had no idea how to actually teach someone a technique at her age, for Uchiha the fire affinity usually came quite naturally, and didn't take much effort for such a simple to be formed. Naruto was a wild card in the subject though, there was no telling if he could even manipulate fire, let alone control his chakra for it. The day was sunny, as usual for the warm fire country. Even though she knew it had no real effect on fire, Sasuke always liked to think that the sun gave her luck with her initiation test. Maybe Naruto would get that luck too. Come on Naruto, it's over here. Sasuke ran ahead of Naruto, as he did his best to keep up. He had plenty of energy, but she seemed to be bursting at the seams. Wait up Sasuke-chan, I can't run that fast. She ignored him, and ran ahead, coming to a stop at the mouth of the pier on the small lake on the edge of the compound. It was then her excited smile gave way to a small frown. This was one of the only fond memories she had of her father. It was here she pulled him along to see her successful fireball, and where he had shown her a smile, when that was directed to her with pride. He had never done that before with her, not even with her good grades, he always saved them for Itachi. Sasuke had her mother for praise and smiles, but she still wanted approval from her father. Because he reserved his only for when he was truly impressed, that was why it made such an impact on her. And now he was dead, killed by the man who he poured all his pride and love into. Sasuke felt so vulnerable at that moment, she didn't even realize a few tears had fallen from her eyes. Naruto had finally caught up with the girl to see she was just standing there, not saying anything. Since she was staring at the pier, her back was toward him keeping him from seeing her tears. Naruto saw her shake a bit, and went over to see what was wrong, confused at her sudden change. Sasuke, are you okay? This woke the girl up, and she quickly brushed her cheeks free of the tears. No need to worry Naruto with my problems, he's dead now anyway. Itachi is out of my reach too right now, I just have to care for Naruto and Kasen. Yes, Sasuke replied, coughing a bit to quiet the flutter in her voice. I'm fine Naruto. Come on, I'll show you the hand signs now. Naruto kept staring at her for a second, but then shrugged in ignorance. Absolute zero ability in reading emotions. Sasuke went through the hand signs one slowly for Naruto to see, giving him a chance to practice with just the movements. Then, going through them with the practiced speed and ease, Sasuke created a small fireball that extended some amount over the water from the pier. Naruto watched the fire blow in the wind with a trance, as it raced from Sasuke's mouth, and then dissipated back to its point of origin. Okay Naruto, you try. What followed for 2 full hours was Naruto's attempt at channeling his overwhelming amounts of chakra into a fireball. Unfortunately, his body just could not get a handle on the manipulation of the chakra, let alone infusing it with a natural affinity he might not have had. Naruto felt it was a bad start to training, but Sasuke took it especially hard, as she thought it was her fault. Sorry Naruto-kun. Sasuke teared up a bit, as she apologized to the confused Naruto. I must be a terrible sensei if I couldn't help you learn something so simple like this. Maybe Iruka-sensei could. Naruto cut her off with a hug that shocked her into silence. That's not Sasuke-chan, I'm sure with more practice I can get it. You're a great teacher, I like listening to you a lot more than Iruka-sensei. Not to mention you're prettier than him. Sasuke blushed at his comment, even if Naruto was ignorantly comparing her cuteness to a guy. I'll take what I can get. Thank you Naruto, how about we go home for today, and try again tomorrow. I bet Ka-san is back from her meeting by now anyway. We should welcome her. Naruto agreed, and the two set off for home, feeling better than when they arrived. Mikoto's house, family room. Mikoto waited for the children to arrive, however, she was too lost in her own thoughts to hear the door open and shut with childish laughter, and the pitter-patter of feet on wood to notice the arrival of her children. She had just promised her daughter, and herself to a 7-year-old boy who was the outcast of the village. Was that not crossing some line? What would her friend Kushina say to her marrying her son? You go girl. Show Sachi-kun how cougar does it. Mikoto blushed, better she did not think of it. Still though, the prospect of morality wasn't the only thing that concerned her. The council's demands were strict and binding to the contract Kra. They would have no choice to follow if they wanted any semblance of freedom in the village. To protect her children, she would have had to have taken this course of action, which is why she did so. The elders were at first outraged at the thought of us marrying Naruto, but Hiruzen's quick thinking and persuasive tactics allowed them to think they had all bases covered. In a way they do though, no matter what will happen with my choices, they will get Uchiha children. Still though, at least Sasuke may be happy with the choice. Ka-san. Naruto and Sasuke tackled the woman as she sat there in a trance, waking her up from her inner thoughts. The family shared a laugh as they lay on the cold floor, just staring at the ceiling in a moment of closeness. Mikoto glanced at the two and noticed how they seemed happy, so oblivious to the world of problems that surrounded them. Better stay that way though, she thought. What was a child without blissful ignorance? It was their right after all. How is school today, you two? Mikoto asked, and got the usual grumbles, even from Sasuke. It looked like Naruto's enthusiasm for school was rubbing off on her honor student. We will be learning about chakra manipulation and nature elements next though mother, so maybe Naruto can do the initiation afterward. Mikoto was reminded of Naruto's initiation by that remark, and made to ask how it went. I didn't pass, Ka-san, Naruto said quietly, as he looked up at her with disappointed eyes. But I will keep trying so I can be a real Uchiha, like you said. I want to be with you guys. Mikoto smiled, as she felt him hug her tighter, and rubbed his back in comfort. You already are with us Naruto-kun, don't feel pressured into completing the technique. Since you are going to learn about it anyway, I'll tell you about nature chakra now. The 5 basic elements are water, earth, wind, fire, and lightning. Each person has at least one affinity, and can train themselves to harness more, but there is no guarantee of one particular element. Mikoto lectured them in a professional, motherly tone on the subject, as it wasn't something academy students could grasp easily without first-hand knowledge. Naruto, natural-born Uchiha generally always have a fire affinity, meaning they can use fire techniques without any intensive training. You come from the Uzumaki though, a very well-known clan that use water as a primary affinity. Naruto suddenly felt very down that he had the opposite affinity, but Mikoto encouraged him to continue listening. But that doesn't mean you have water, and it doesn't mean you don't have fire. We will just have to have you practice, and see what you can and can't do. I know if you work hard enough, you can master any technique. Sasuke, who was on the other side of Mikoto, sat up to look at Naruto, and smiled. Yeah Naruto, you are an Uchiha like us. Uchiha are powerful, and can learn any technique, so I'm sure you can learn Nkakuk in no time. Naruto felt encouraged, and nodded in assent, making that part of the conversation done. So Ka-san, how did your meeting go? Sasuke asked after a while of more silence, and staring at the ceiling. Mikoto knew this was coming up, and decided against keeping much from either of them, just what Hiruzen suggested. If Naruto knew he was marrying both of them, the thoughts of her being his mother and wife would confuse his young mind between both titles, and could break their current relationship. Besides, it wasn't anything he had to worry about for a while. The council said that I have to be pregnant by him turning 18, so we have plenty of time for me to think of something. Mikoto was at least thankful they had so much time, not expecting the elders to give them such space to work with. Well, the Hokage and I talked about the Uchiha and what will happen with us in the future. She had a pause halfway through, trying to think of the best way to word it. The kids didn't mind, and listened closely. The Hokage said that because the Uchiha are so powerful, we have to make sure that we have ways to keep the clan going in the future. This is so difficult with children so young, like them. I can't use the term sex or breed or else they will overreact. Yeah, how do we make more Uchiha Ka-san? Sasuke muttered in thought, trying to figure out how that would work out. Her mother had the decency to hide her blush, and cursed, as Naruto seemed to adopt a thinking pose too. That's something you will find out when you are older. Their mother's quick reply made them quiet down, and accept it for truth, allowing her to continue with her awkwardly worded conversation. It was decided that we had to ensure that in the future we could have more Uchiha, and that you two could stay together very closely to help with this. Sasuke seemed to be catching on, something her mother wasn't surprised of. However, Naruto seemed to still be trying to wrap his head around the idea. Hopefully he will grow out of this. It's probably because he doesn't have much experience with people. You two are engaged to be wed in the future, when you are older. This is to ensure the clan's line continues without any problems. Mikoto trailed off, as her daughter blushed, and Naruto was still thinking, apparently not hearing what she said. We are going to be like you, and Tusan. Mikoto just nodded, accepting the comparison. Hopefully there will be more love though than our marriage. Then again, it's starting out just like ours did, an arranged one. Sasuke said nothing, mulling the thought over. She liked Naruto for sure, but at such a young age, it was impossible to think over such a big change to her future. It would take time, she figured, to get used to, but her mother was someone she could trust, and they would have plenty of time to think it over, and get used to each other. Okay, I trust you, Kasa. Mikoto smiled, and gave her daughter a small hug, as Naruto was still sitting up, thinking over what she had said. So the two turned to him, figuring he had arrived at a conclusion finally. Is this marriage thing like some special brother-sister thing the Uchiha do? Because I don't know what it is. Mikoto just gaped at him in amazement he didn't understand yet, and Sasuke grumbled, and sighed. My future husband is a Bakugate. She droned sarcastically while Mikoto started explaining the prospect of two people being married. Once Naruto had been thoroughly explained to the whole process, he was fully embarrassed, and blushing like Sasuke was. Still though, he was 7, and they both didn't comprehend everything that went into marriage, even if they thought they did. They've got plenty of time too. Sasuke has to have a child by 16. By then it will be clear if they like each other or not. If not, then they will have plenty of friends from the academy to choose from. Mikoto was as satisfied as she could be with the outcome of things, if only for now. Alright you two, it's getting late. I'll go make us some food, and then it's off to bed for you two. Mikoto hurried to the task she had given to herself while they went out into the garden to bathe in the last of the sun's rays. Mikoto watched them play through the kitchen window, smiling at their carefree attitudes, even after such a bomb had been dropped on them, regardless of her trying to soften the blow. As long as they are still smiling, I have a reason to keep trying for Konoha, and for the Uchiha. Mikoto's home, Naruto's room. Mikoto was tucking Naruto in again, as she did the previous night. However, this time she had to broach a particular subject to him, as it was brought up by the council. Hiruzen was not wrong when he mused on their interest in the Sharingan for future transplant operations. What he nor Mikoto had expected was they put Naruto forward as one of the receivers. While they knew that giving him the Sharingan would in no way increase the chance of her or Sasuke having children with the gene, they figured it would be a worthy investment into the village's weapon if they could give him the Sharingan eyes. It was even more in favor because he was now adopted into the Uchiha family. Who better for him to help harness these powers than the owners of it themselves? If Mikoto wasn't around, she seriously doubted they would still consider the transplant, for he would have no one to learn from, a book in the hands of a person who was illiterate. But what mattered to her the most was Naruto's opinion. If he didn't want the eyes, then she wouldn't let him have them. End of story. Even if she knew she could train him to protect himself better with them if they forced their eyes on him, she would not force the boy through any more than he had already been through manipulation. Narukon. Mikoto purred in his ear, as his tired eyes turned to her, noticing she still remained at his bedside when he was covered by a blanket. Yes, Miko-chan, he responded with a tired yawn, saying her nickname again in response to her name for him. Do you remember when you asked me about the Sharingan? He nodded. You said you wanted the red eyes. Why do you want them? Naruto's tiredness set aside for later, he sat up in bed, and looked into her onyx orbs with determination. Why are you asking Kasen? Mikoto swallowed the lump in her throat, and continued hesitantly. Kasen can give you the red eyes you want, but you will lose your blue ones. Do you want that? She was almost choking up with tears asking him this. How could she make a 7-year-old choose to lose something as personal as his own eyes? Naruto's response made her almost choke. Yes, I want the Kasen. I want red eyes. He said it so seriously that she couldn't even put it off. As a joke, what did he mean he wanted them? Naruto, do you know what you are saying? Why would you give up your blue eyes when you've had them forever? Naruto looked down at his blanket and gripped it tightly with his hands, knuckles turning white. I want to be strong enough to protect Kasen and Sasuke, just like Itachi Nai said to. Mikoto flinched at her son's name, but was surprised Naruto cared that much to protect them when they had only known each other for a few days. If I can be strong with red eyes, Naruto said with emotion choking up his throat too, as he began to cry. I will lose my blue ones if I can protect you, Miko-chan. She couldn't help but feel warm at his vow to protect her, even if it came from a 7-year-old. Naruto, why would you go so far for us? We have only been together for a few days. How can you feel so strongly about protecting the Uchiha? Naruto looked at her, his sniffling stopped, and his voice cleared so she could hear his reason that she still reflected on far into the future. Because the Uchiha gave me a chance, and Sasuke gave me love, and that is something I will die for to keep intact. Mikoto began to cry, and hugged her son, thankful that he was so passionate about love, something that had been missing from their family for so long. That was why she wasn't uncomfortable at all when she called Naruto her son. Thank you, Sachi-kun. I love you very, very much. Naruto wrapped his tiny arms around her, and snuggled into her bosom, crying. I love you too, Ka-chan. He was a bit muffled by her shirt, but Mikoto heard it, and only hugged him tighter. The Uchiha were for the first time a family. A family with love. Kanahagakure, the Uchiha compound. Morning in the Uchiha compound that day was not as quiet as Sasuke was used to, as she groaned in bed. Faint voices murmured veiled words through her door. Although she didn't know exactly what the conversation was, she knew the two culprits of it. Naruto and Mikoto were in the kitchen, probably eating breakfast together, as had become the custom in the house, since Naruto was used to waking up in his own time. It didn't take long for the boy to find out when his adoptive mother would wake, and he too would follow suit so he could talk to her, be near her. Naruto had been starved of social stimulation since he was born, and he was eager to make up for that lost time, something of which Mikoto happily embraced, as it was the first time she had a helper in the kitchen. When it came down to his cooking skills, he left a lot to be desired. However, as Sasuke remembered, it didn't take long before Mikoto stopped his ramen breakfast spree quickly. Before the girl could realize it, Naruto was making a breakfast to rival feasts her mother had prepared in the past. Mikoto had never been so proud. The same timeline would have happened for Sasuke, but her father made her focus more on schoolwork, and surpassing her brother was already an impossible task that left no room for teaching her how to cook. Geez, their bonding time always wakes me up. Sarcasm dripped as she crawled out of bed with only an oversized t-shirt acting as her cover. Today was the day she, along with the rest of the class, would take their graduation exam. Although they kept the details secret, Sasuke was confident that both her and Naruto could pass easily. At least I hope the Baka does. It wouldn't if when we got married I was Jonin, and he was still a genin. Giggling at the thought, dressing in her usual school look was as quick as it was simple. As always, she wore her high-collar blue shirt with the Uchiha crest stamped proudly on the back. With the shirt taken care of, it was then onward to her tougher choice, a short skirt that came to her mid-thighs or her usual beige shorts. Thinking better of changing the routine for such an uneventful day, Sasuke decided to wear the skirt tomorrow to indicate her fresh start as a genin. Slipping on her blue sandals, Sasuke headed toward the bathroom to check just what her hair had in store for her today. She looked into the mirror to see that other than a few stray hairs, her long, flowing dark blue hair was still in good shape. It wasn't long before she began to play with it, tying it into pigtails before almost vomiting. To redeem herself, she tried a ponytail that her mother sometimes wore, but thought that could also be done at a later date. The Uchiha settled for her usual look, and decided to see what the commotion was all about with those two finally, as they had just about resorted to yelling her name. The halls reverberated her covered feet, and told the two in the family room she was on her way. What do you two want? Sasuke stopped mid-sentence, as she saw the two sitting across from each other enjoying their meal, staring at her for her loud interruption. Sorry, I didn't realize you had stopped talking. She mumbled an apology. Mikoto beamed at her daughter. All she could see was progress, progress, and progress. Though her daughter had lost some of her more girlish manners, as age passed, Mikoto was still proud to see that her daughter had not lost her feminine touch. Sasuke-chan, so nice of you to join us. Sasuke glanced at her mother, and just gave in response to her prodding. Yeah, well, I bet even if I hadn't come you two would still be enjoying yourselves. You get along really well. Sasuke looked at Naruto, who had been quietly eating, silently laughing at the situation. TCH, mama's boy. Naruto had the decency to hide his blush with a loud slurp of his soup brought all the way to his face. Mikoto giggled at his reaction. It was true he spent most of his time at the compound with her. Not that she minded though, in fact she quite enjoyed having such a happy face to welcome her home. It was much different than the past, something Mikoto did very well at not focusing on anymore. I have enough problems these days to worry about what happened 6 years ago. Mikoto took a small sip of green tea to clear her thoughts about the Kra, and her stress from maintaining their clan's status. Meet after meeting regarding Uchiha this, Uchiha that, proposal options here, children there. I could make a profession out of denying the elders every turn I got to speak. It's just become so stressful I almost wonder if telling them would do any good. You know, it's almost like you two are the married ones. This time it was Mikoto's turn to show a reaction, spitting out her green tea back onto her plate, and Naruto. Naruto was about to laugh at Sasuke's joke when he got green tea all over his black shirt, and looked to see an embarrassed and blushing Mikoto quickly set her cup down, and covered her mouth in embarrassment. I'm so sorry Naruto-kun, hang on, I'll get a towel. She ran off into the kitchen, as the siblings exchanged glances, not understanding her odd reaction. Moms are weird. I'll have to remember this, Ka-san has a thing for Naruto. The siblings agreed to their thoughts, as Mikoto ran back in, and began to clean Naruto's face and shirt with her towel. It wasn't that much, but enough that it would be uncomfortable to leave, and Naruto would definitely be wearing another shirt today. Heika saw Naruto was cut off, as she continued to dab his skin and shirt with the towel vigorously, and he figured she was really taking this badly. Meko-chan, it's fine, I can handle it. Mikoto realized she looked a bit too overzealous in her redemption, and blushed in embarrassment at just how close her son was to her. No, it's not like that. They don't really know about the engagement, it was just a figure of speech. Why yes you were right Naruto, here take it. Naruto proceeded to take the towel and clean himself off as Sasuke enjoyed her breakfast, thoroughly enjoying the interaction after the conclusion she came to in her thoughts. But leave the shirt when you leave for school, I will clean it for you. Naruto let out a sigh, but nodded. The woman would not take no for an answer, so he gave in, as usual. He set down the towel and proceeded to take off his t-shirt he had been wearing to bed, decent only thanks to his boxers. Both Uchiha women shook their heads at his nonchalant take on manners, but ignored it, as they wanted to escape the strict rules the house had been under in the past. They wanted to lighten up a bit, and even take in a little of Naruto's happiness, except of course they weren't willing to strip down to their undergarments in the house. Regardless, Naruto had greatly influenced their lives, and so far it was for the better. Sasuke and Mikoto both had recovered from any sort of long-lasting symptoms of depression that the village doctors had expected. Naruto had also improved both his social and ninja skills since being inducted into the Uchiha, all culminating with the implant of his Sharingan eyes. Okay Ka-san, I'll go get a new shirt, and Sasuke and I can go. We have our big test today. Mikoto suddenly remembered as her daughter rolled her eyes. It wasn't as big of a deal as he made it. That's right, you two will be taking your final step to Genin. I'm so proud. She gushed, already thinking of a way to reward them for how far they had come. It's not that big of a deal Ka-san, the tests so far have been a joke. They actually figure that what they teach us will be challenging, but Naruto and I learned them the first time we see them without a Sharingan. Mikoto laughed at her daughter's expense. Her frustration was nothing less than what was expected of an Uchiha prodigy. Try to be more understanding like your brother Sasuke-chan, he knows how important they are in the future of your ninja career. Naruto shrugged, he didn't think much of the techniques, but if his Ka-san was happy he was too. Please, Naruto could care less than I do. Sasuke drowned, but Mikoto dutifully ignored her, remembering the sad event that befell Naruto 6 years ago, that led him to not having a Sharingan. Naruto had yet to take advantage of the ability, even once. It was because when he first attempted to use them, he promptly almost fainted from the pain and chakra usage. No single op until that point had affected Naruto like that, but he knew that it wasn't really chakra exhaustion, but his body's difficulty in getting used to the new organs. There was also the fact to consider that no one else, not even his family, realized he had these Sharingan eyes. Along with the elders and Hokage were the only ones who stood in on his operation of Fugaku Uchiha's eyes transferring to his body. While the operation was a success, upon fully linking the eyes to be compatible with the body, the red Sharingan disappeared back into a sky blue, albeit with a slightly darker tint. The elders were outraged and demanded to know what happened, while the medics had no explanation. It seemed as if Naruto's body rejected the eyes and shut it off permanently. As Naruto was unconscious for his recovery, it was then he learned exactly why that happened, and what he had yet to reveal to his family for their own safety. Flashback, 6 years ago, Naruto's mind. Naruto's head hurts. The last thing to remember is holding his mother's hand, before the doctors put him to sleep for the operation. The operation that was going to give him red eyes to protect Sasuke and Mikoto. His eyes. Naruto got up quickly and looked around, noticing his new environment was far from a hospital room. It was dank and dark with lots of pipes and a single direction to go, forward. On the ground he saw a puddle and excitedly ran over to look at his eyes, the new ones. It was met with disappointment when his eyes were the same, as always, plain blue. What happened? Where were his new eyes? Why was he here, and what exactly happened in the operating room? Fear gripped him, as a sudden fear of his new surroundings invaded his mind, allowing the other presence to sense his feelings. I sense your unease, come forward boy, and I will explain further. Naruto heard the voice, but was scared of it. It was loud and demonic. It felt like it was coming from everywhere, but there was only one place it wanted him to go, toward the end of the hallway. Well, come now, you help. Do not try my patience lest I take back my favor. Figuring it wasn't a good idea to make the thing angry, he ran forward until he was in a big room with a cage on the other end with a seal locking it. What are you? Naruto stood before an awesome beast, the size something he could never fathom at his age. It reminded him of a fox with what he could see, the large orange ears, snout, mischievous smirk, and the swirling tails that Naruto thought looked in infinite numbers. It grumbled in a mocking tone. Now that the boy was closer he had to reserve his usual booming voice for a quieter setting. I am Kyuubi, the nine-tailed fox that is sealed within you, a tiny human brat that just inherited a dangerous weapon that doesn't belong to you. Naruto gulped, as he emphasized Naruto's place on his respect totem pole, quite low. To keep both you and I safe, I created a simple trick of the eyes to make them think you gain no such power. If they think you are weak, as you grow older and stronger, you will be able to reveal to them your true power, as you strike at their hearts with fire, blade, and fear. From that, Naruto understood the Kyuubi had done something to make his eyes seem unaffected, when really he did have the red eyes. So that means I really do have. Naruto quieted down, as he began to feel his eyes with the newfound information, practically jumping with relief. Yes, you simpleton, you still have the Sharingan of the Uchiha. He said the name, as if it was dirt under his foot, making Naruto a little angry. How dare he treat his family's name like that? Kyuubi sensed a change in reaction and laughed in the boy's face. Please, do you really think you are a true Uchiha? You have the name, the crest, even now you have their eyes, but what you don't have is their fiery hatred, the will to conquer. If I could have influenced that in your early stages, I would have, but it seemed as though your parents were thorough in your control over me. Honestly, I'm surprised I was able to do such a simple trick as hide your eyes. The blonde gasped at the mention of his real parents. No one had told him anything of them. And again, he never thought to ask any more that he was living with the Uchiha. You knew my parents. Kyuubi eyed the boy, his mocking smirk gone, replaced with an annoyed scowl. That is a tale that will come in time, boy. He said simply, but realized he made it sound like these talks would often and quickly rectify his words. But only I decide when to speak to you, not the other way around. If I must be stuck in you, then it is my sad fate. I will have to help you survive with my power, however, on my own terms. Your power? Kyuubi scowled. The boy knew nothing of what he held within. For now my chakra will grant you healing in addition to keeping up the facade you have with your norm lies, revealing the Sharingan to no one, until you are ready to live with the consequences. What are the consequences? Naruto didn't like the sound of that. Kyuubi glared at him, and then shook his head in annoyance. The consequence of being a strong shinobi. Present time. Naruto had begun to wrap his head around what Kyuubi said when he was younger. Now that he had a grasp of a ninja's life, strong shinobi were historically hunted and fought over for their power. Of course they kept their own will, and often ended up fighting both sides of the tug of war, but one could not make their life like that. That was what led the Senju and Uchiha together into Konoha's founding. They could no longer take the tug of war that forced their clans to go against one another by villages and countries. Naruto would use his Sharingan to protect his important people. That was all that mattered to him in the end anyway. He would go all out to protect the two girls in front of him, no matter if it cost him his life. I'll die to keep that love intact. Naruto. Are you okay? You spaced out for a moment. Mikoto looked at him worriedly, as he just stood in the doorway looking at them with a blank stare. He shook his head clear, and waved off to the two. Yeah, just got lost for a moment there and thought, I'll go change. Mikoto and Sasuke glanced at each other, and shrugged it off. Naruto still took some figuring out. Ka-san, what will you be doing during school today? Sasuke asked, which surprised Mikoto. Generally the girl had just accepted that Mikoto was quite busy with meetings, and such. I have another meeting with the elders to review your engagement with Naruto. Sasuke's eyes widened, and she blushed from the reminder, uncharacteristic of her usual stoic behavior. I might also get some information about which squad you're in, and who your sensei will be. She hoped to arouse her daughter's interests, but received nothing but a glance. She is still trying to keep her thoughts off the subject. She is nervous they won't be on a team together because of their place in the class. Naruto was ranked second to Sasuke amongst the other class of around 20 other academy students, making it seem as if the two would be spread amongst two teams to keep the skill level high. However, Mikoto had a good feeling that the two would be together for numerous reasons, one amongst them mother instinct. And the elders would jump at the chance to have them be close at all times at the very least, if the two end up having a child earlier than scheduled. Not that Mikoto thought that either would do so, but they would enjoy each other's company in comparison to the rest of the class. Alright, Naruto yelled in a rambunctious voice, as he opened the door with a new black Uchiha color shirt and a big smile. Are you ready to go to Suki-chan? A bowl of half-eaten rice was his answer, as the annoyed girl walked past him and toward the front door. What did I tell you about the name? It was his pet name for her, like Miko-chan, but Sasuke was embarrassed by it and tried to make him stop. Secretly he knew she loved it, as he saw her blush many times when they were alone, but he often did it just to tease her. He quickly began to pick up the rice so he could catch up, but a soft hand grabbed him, making him stop and look to see his smiling mother. Oh Naruto, I don't want you to be late for school. My meeting doesn't start for a while anyway. Naruto looked unsure, but with an embarrassing peck on his cheek, the blonde ran out of the house to catch up with his annoyed sister. Mikoto laughed, as she picked up the food. He was too easy to tease. Konohagakure Ninja Academy. The two Uchiha made it on time, surprising with how much time they wasted at home. As they entered the schoolyard, the combination of Sasuke's presence and the Uchiha crest brought eyes toward them. The rumor mill began to spin, as it did every day, as Naruto and Sasuke walked closely with one another, practically holding hands. It wasn't that there were some rules they couldn't reveal their relationship to the other kids or anything, they were just still embarrassed. The explanations that both didn't want to do, along with obvious comments made about them afterward, were most easily kept at bay by keeping a certain distance from one another until they were ready. Nonetheless, it didn't stop the word from spreading. Uchiha Sasuke and Naruto, they awfully look close for brother and sister. Why didn't they tell anyone they were related? I had to find out from my Two-san. Almost looks like they're going out, she is way too good for him. I wish I was Naruto, he doesn't deserve that. Sasuke is so amazing, too bad our image is wrecked when the blonde stays so close by. Naruto's Uchiha name didn't stop people from despising him, it just gave them more varied reasons. Whether it be from jealousy, hatred of the Nine Tails, or even envy of skills or stature, Naruto was still a target. He didn't mind it so much, as he grew up with it half of his life. Sasuke on the other hand still got annoyed. You shouldn't have to take that, Naruto. She mumbled, wondering if he could even hear her, as they entered the classroom away from most of the kids. It's okay, Sasuke. Naruto wrapped an arm around her shoulders and brought her in for a hug, making her blush, as a few other seated kids saw. As long as I have you and Kasan, I don't care what they say. Sasuke didn't push him away like she used to. Instead, she liked this warm feeling inside her when they were close. Naruto was waiting for her to get angry and push him away, but instead she leaned in closer and gave a happy sigh as she closed her eyes dreamily. I guess Obaka. Naruto blushed as they partied a bit to sit down in their chairs next to one another in the far left corner of the class, mostly just to discourage kids from coming close to them. Sasuke got out of her daze as Naruto's arm left her to sit down, and she quickly assumed her usual position, eyes front and hands interlaced, giving her a bored look. This suited her because it kept boys away and let the teacher know she was still paying attention, even when she wasn't. Alright class, get seated. Iruka and Mizuki entered, both with clipboards that would no doubt be used for their final test grading. The kids scrambled to find their seats. A few boys glanced over at the Uchiha to see Naruto's impenetrable defense of Sasuke still remained. She sat on the far chair with the wall right next to her, and he took the middle, preventing anyone else from sitting by her. The worst part was she never gave any thought or sympathy to them when they wanted to sit by her, instead allowing her brother to do as he pleased. A few girls did in fact like Naruto, but were too scared Sasuke would do something or too nervous to do anything about it. They also figured out along with the boys that whether they were siblings or not, the two did not seem interested in anything other than each other whenever they were seen. Iruka surveyed the class to ensure they were all quiet and listening, landing on the Uchiha pair with a small smirk. The two were sure to ace the test with their grades, and it would be his honor to pass them after the hard work they put in, no matter how much they acted like it was just simple chores. I don't know what kind of training Mikoto Uchiha-sama does to make them so at ease with our training regimen, but it definitely shows. They have no one even close to their scores in academics or ninja training. In all honesty, they could have graduated early, but the Hokage requested they stay in for the full run, along with permission from Mikoto. Whatever reason they wanted them to stay with the class was beyond Iruka, but there were admittedly few who could be a match for them, as a teammate. Today we will finish the 3-part graduation exam, as we finished taking the written exam on Monday, the ninja tool exercise yesterday, and now for your test today. Those who pass with overall acceptable scores and perform to at least a 70% in each category will be allowed to move on and graduate from the academy. The usual excited murmurs came up, and Iruka waved them off as he indicated a door near the chalkboard. The test will take place there, Mizuki, and I will test you on Bunshin. Mizuki just finished writing the order of students to come up on the chalkboard as the two prepared to depart. Please follow the order Mizuki-sensei has written on the board. First student Shino Apuram, please come with us to the testing area. Shino felt eyes on him as he slowly got up and followed the teachers into the room, leaving the rest to their thoughts. The usual glances made no surprise to the Uchiha as they waited patiently. Naruto emulated Sasuke's serious pose in an attempt to annoy her, and he realized it was working as she sent him a glare. Indeed, you know why I try to look serious all the time? Naruto smiled and brought his arm around her again to tease her, making all eyes tune to the area immediately. Of course, Sasuke-chan, but I don't like you being serious all the time. I like seeing you smile too. She blushed and allowed him to pull her closer for a hug. The moment ended when they both felt they weren't alone. Naruto looked behind him to see a boy from their class, Hibachi, standing in the aisle with crossed arms and an annoyed but cocky look on his face. The only way they remembered who he was because of two things, his bandana and the fact that he didn't like Naruto because he was always with Sasuke. To her, he was nothing. To him, it was his ticket to popularity to date her and become the next boy Uchiha. Naruto was always in his way though, and when he saw her smile when he put his arm around her, Hibachi decided now was the time to make a move while the teachers were out. Hey you, back off her, he said with a tough guy voice, but failed when Naruto and Sasuke heard him squeak as the Uchiha turned to glare at him. She's my family, you don't have a say in what we do. Sasuke liked the way Naruto spoke with an edge to his voice, especially since he was defending her. Why yeah, well she didn't look too happy about it. Hibachi defended with a stutter, feeling the class begin to snicker behind his back. What do you want? Sasuke asked with an attitude. He was annoying her when she was about to get closer to Naruto during class. Sasuke-san, I think in that sense we're both gonna be genin soon, and that means we both will be strong. It's time I ask you out on a date. Drop this loser of a brother. Naruto's glare intensified as he paused before continuing in a mumble. And go out with me. Sasuke wanted to roll her eyes. If the guy thought she would pity him, he was very wrong. Whether he knew it or not, Sasuke was taken, and she didn't even know the kid to begin with, so she decided to let Naruto handle it. Naruto, get rid of him for me. Naruto smirked, never taking his eyes off of Hibachi, as he stood up and cracked his knuckles. You got it, Suki-chan. Any requests? The class fell deathly silent as Hibachi began to shake in fear. They were being serious, weren't they? He got rejected, and he was going to get beat up on the same day. Not if he had anything to say about it. I am not afraid of Yu. He took a basic stance of defense, as Sasuke's deadly smirk unnerved him, as she gave Naruto one rule. No blood on me. Naruto took a step forward, making the boy flinch. He took a long stride, so he was now crouching low under Hibachi's body, and sent a single uppercut right into his jaw. The boy felt pain, as he momentarily was lifted off the ground, and then sent flying across the desk when Naruto kicked him in the stomach. He landed on the other side of the room and, trying his best to nurse his pride, dragged himself back to his seat, as Naruto returned to his spot with Sasuke. Nice Naruto, but the kick was a little too much for him, I think. Naruto scratched the back of his head, displaying a carefree smile, weirding some out after he showed such an evil smirk before. Sorry, I guess I forgot my own strength. Sasuke just shook her head in disbelief, and returned to her world of boredom until they were called in. It was obvious of their outcome though to everyone in the school. The Uchiha had passed their final test. Konohagakure, Hokage's mansion, office, and so you still remember the terms of our agreement, Uchiha Dono. The elders and Hokage were once again with Mikoto in a meeting, basically to review their past agreements. Yes, elders, she sighed in exasperation. The amount of times they asked that over the past few years, and they still thought she would conveniently forget. I know the terms of the CRA. Sasuke must have a child by 16, and myself by Naruto's age of 18. The elders nodded, and were glad she remembered. A shame that boy did not take the transplant. The Sharingan could have strengthened him further. Mikoto was actually somewhat happy compared to their disappointment. It meant Naruto would still be normal. The set of Sharingan eyes were not exactly subtle, especially to his classmates. If the transplant had worked, she would have definitely encouraged Naruto to hide them to keep his strength secret. But thoughts of it didn't matter much, as they were past that opportunity. Moving on, I'm sure Mikoto Dono would appreciate a break from the usual questioning you two give her. The Hokage stepped in after the silence, ignoring the glares sent by his teammates. It came to my attention that you wanted to see the finalized list of teams. Is that correct? Mikoto nodded. She was quite anxious to see exactly who her children ended up with, although she was surely not going to be surprised after the amount of recommendations she gave the Hokage. Truthfully, there was only one Jonin who had the qualifications to push them to their limits, and further train Sasuke's. Hada Kakashi. As you requested, and I supported, Jonin Hada Kakashi has been appointed to lead Team 7. The squad consists of Sasuke, Naruto, and Shino Abiram. Mikoto thought over the Abiram boy. She didn't suggest him, but it wasn't a bad choice. Their children excelled in ninjutsu and taijutsu, combining the offensive power with the Abiram's brains and hidden clan, and they would make a deadly combination. A hybrid of tracking and offense. A kill team is what she likened it to. Abiram. Odd choice, Hiruzen Kaharu muttered, as she tried to figure out the Hokage's choice in the third member. Hiruzen merely shrugged and gave a who-knows smile. They could get along very well together, as I see particular links in their personalities, as well as having a good combination of skills that will make them a lethal force as they grow. Under Kakashi's tutelage, I have no doubt they will be the strongest if not the most successful team Konoha produces for many years to come. Mikoto was glad to hear his praise of her children, sensing no deception in his words, as she often found with the empty compliments of the elders. She almost preferred Danzo. At least he told her straight up they hated each other. Better than doing it behind her back. Konohagakure, streets, sunset. Naruto had taken Sasuke on their first official date to celebrate graduation. In reality, it was just a fun little lunch they had together after they got out of school. The two really felt their awkwardness disappear, as they just spent time together eating out at the small restaurant together without parental supervision, and the feeling of being suddenly a lot older than they really were. The reactions from the populace who saw them together was relatively positive. Many of the younger townsfolk saw them as a cute couple, and younger boys and girls swooned in jealousy of their pair. Even then, some ninja and older civilians who remembered the attack clearly still saw Naruto as the Nine Tails, and refused to acknowledge the heiress would choose such a thing to be with. Naruto was walking along with Sasuke, who had her hands hidden in her pockets, and her hair swaying behind her, as they made their way home. Naruto was just looking up at the sky with an odd, thoughtful face, as they walked along, and Sasuke was somewhat annoyed that he was paying more attention to the sky than her. They had just gotten off their first date, as much as he didn't consider it one, and now he wouldn't even hold her hand home. She took a daring glance at him, as it hung limply at his sides, swaying back and forth a bit with each step. A blush crept over her face, as she took her right hand out of her pocket and made for a grab. I don't really know why, but I just don't care what people say when they see us holding hands. I just want him to hold me a little closer. Just before she could grab his hand and take it in hers, he stopped walking, making her just brush against it. Naruto looked into the sky again, as he didn't even notice Sasuke's actions. His instincts had been right. There was something very wrong. Bathed in a sheen of orange, and with a bit of glare, Mizuki was very difficult for Naruto to see off in the distance, but the boy could see the large scroll on his back. It seemed like their teacher was making a late withdrawal from the Hokage mansion, and no one was trying to stop him. Naruto, what's the matter? Sasuke was getting a bit worried, as well as annoyed. He rarely acted like this, and it was scaring her. Naruto looked at her for what felt like the first time since they left their date spot, and she could easily tell his fake smile from his real one. Naruto didn't want to freak her out, and decided he would investigate alone. It was probably nothing anyway. It's nothing, I just remembered something I had to get. Go on ahead, and welcome Kasan. Tell her I'll give her a back rub when I get back. Sasuke was confused and angry as he jumped away into the lowering sun. As night began to fall, why did Naruto show her his fake smile? He hasn't done that since we were little. He would give that smile when they would walk the streets, and people would glare at him. She would ask, and he would just smile and shrug it off. With age, Sasuke could tell hate from the look, but Naruto still would not admit to anything. Mikoto acted as if there was nothing to talk about, but she sensed the two knew more than they let on. I'm not letting you do whatever you're doing alone, Naruto. Sasuke jumped off after him, hoping she could catch up in time. Kanahagakure outskirts, abandoned shed. Mizuki landed with ease at his hideout, and with an unbridled smirk, unstrapped the large scroll on his back. His plunder was too easy to get, as the guards had become lax at the end of the day, allowing him to sneak into the archives without much fuss. He wondered if he could risk a peek to learn a technique or two for himself, of course to strengthen his bond with his soon-to-be leader, Orochimaru. This was his key for power, but both opportunities offered something great of value. His thoughts of grandeur were cut off when he sensed a new presence, and turned to see the Uchiha. It seemed as if the kid was really following him after all. He had hoped it was just nerves, but the blonde was as good, as they say, and the kid deserved praise. That was if Mizuki really cared about being his teacher, which he obviously didn't. With the 9 tails in his grasp, he could kill or capture him to further Orochimaru's power. Everything seemed to be going his way today. Mizuki's sickening smirk seemed to confirm what Naruto feared, as it seemed the teacher had cracked, either becoming a traitor or going insane for power. Either way, there was no way he was supposed to have the scroll of sealing, and it was Naruto's duty, as a genin of Konoha, to stop him. That was what he had earned. The headband for that now was worn proudly on his forehead. So the Kyuubi brat decides to be the village hero, and shows up. Naruto stiffened. That was the first time anyone had directly referred to him in relation with Kyuubi. Even though he knew the beast was inside him, it didn't make things any easier on him to hear that. Unfortunately, Mizuki noticed the change in stance, and decided to press the wound. Oh? Surprise, I know that, Naruto. Everyone knows your friends, your teachers, the ninja who pretend to protect you, even the Hokage, and they all hate you for it. His venom seeped into Naruto's veins, and he felt on fire with anger and fear. Was that really why he felt so separated? Could people hate him so much that they would exile him to a life of solitude even as a child? The answer became all too clear to him, as Naruto brought a hand to his face, now embattled with his own inner conflict. Mizuki stalked forward, as he was ready to point the dagger at the boy's heart. The Uchiha. Did you think Mikoto-san didn't know? Of course she knew. The Uchiha died to Kyuubi just as well as any other ninja, and they hated you for it too. Even now she took you in because she pitied you. Maybe she planned to kill you, but developed some sick sense of humor in keeping you. As her pet Naruto sank to his knees, this was too much for him to think about. Stop it please. Mizuki undid the strap on his large shuriken attached to his back, and began to work it into a spin, as he still approached with that sickening smirk. And don't even get me started on your precious sister Sasuke. She'll throw you away faster than I can throw th. Stop it. Or what, Kyuubi boy? Let's see you stop this. Mizuki let loose the shuriken, tired of his game. As he realized the boy was already broken, he sobbed on the ground, and did not make it to avoid the shuriken. Naruto, snap out of it. He looked up to see Sasuke holding the shuriken in place, one hand in the center wheel, while the other rested comfortably on one of the blades. His sister had stopped the killing blow to the Kyuubi boy. Why did she? Naruto then saw her stiffen up a bit, and grunt in pain. Both hands were laced with blood, as it trickled down her fingers to the ground. She had caught the shuriken initially with her hands on the blades, due to a bad angle in her positioning, but it was the only way she could see in saving Naruto. She had heard all of what Mizuki said, even the part describing Naruto as Kyuubi. There were a few things she still didn't understand, like how Naruto had Kyuubi inside him, and what that meant for him, but she did know that what he was saying about her, and Mikoto wasn't true. They loved Naruto no matter who or what he was. They were family, and that was tighter than any other bond. Sasuke, why? She heard him croak out the question in mid-sob. I'm the keeper of a monster. I don't deserve this. Sasuke frowned. He was so vulnerable right now after Mizuki's barrage. She would think it cute if the situation was different. Naruto looked at her, and saw her flashing him a confident smile, very rare for Sasuke to do. The last time she did that was when Naruto mastered the fireball technique at the pier. That was the day he had become a true Uchiha. Mikoto and Sasuke were so proud, and he had never felt closer to them afterward. Now it seemed that smile was his salvation in the face of defeat. That's what brothers and sisters are supposed to do, because we're family. Naruto couldn't believe she said that. It reminded him of the past times she had said the same thing. Mizuki just stood there, annoyed at how she brought him back from the brink with just a few words. Besides, she turned back to glare at Mizuki, signaling their fight was back on. If my fiancé goes and gets himself killed, who will I marry then? Damn brat, is that all you can do is talk? Sasuke smirked and readied the shuriken to throw back at him with just as much ferocity as when it was first used. You should know, sensei, you tested me after all. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. And make sure to check out the author of this fanfic, link is in the description. See you next time, till then sayonara.